I have a question, Stuart.
Yes.
So I was thinking just now, sometimes when I'm in your class, a few times, but it's happened where tears just kind of flow, and um, sometimes they might be associated with a memory of releasing. And so I'm thinking, how does that happen? And so I realized that it's the Shakti going through the nadis, releasing, pushing, untying. But can you talk about how that could change your environment in some way when you're releasing certain things from doing this practice? How it can change
Hallie, well,
your
first of
life?
all, try to stop thinking about it. Okay. I really mean that. Let it become an experience inside you that does transform you. If you start thinking about it, you will destroy the essence of the experience. Take it into the chakra system, let it work on you. How does it change? Look, as you change inside, the external world changes. When I first met Rudy, okay, I was living in a $38 a month apartment in Chelsea, which was kind of a slum at that time in Manhattan. My greatest pressure was getting rid of all the cockroaches that were in the kitchen. I mean, that was my life. I used to work as a waiter. You made enough money to just about live, and thank God life was cheap then. It's not so cheap anymore, and you could live. You could. But as I began to develop inside, I started buying art from Rudy. I mean, he had one of the biggest collections of Asian art in the world, Rudy. He was a very big dealer in Asian art. Started buying, my whole apartment changed. I bought the 17th century screen from him, Japanese Kano screen from him. And I remember I put it right around my bed. I would wake up in the morning with all these little, wonderful creatures around me. Your life changes. I mean, I had no money and I used to buy everything on time and this, and I paid Rudy out for it. My life changed. My whole environment began to change. I had a huge Siamese Buddha I bought from him that I used to meditate with. And, as I grew inside, I began to tap a more refined energy in myself. And the universe made it possible for me to transform myself and to live a different way. And then, I mean, my whole life has been that way. If I ever wrote an autobiography, it should be called Transformation, because that's exactly what happened. As I grew, the environment around me grew. The people that were in my life changed. Some people got very angry at me because, you know, I changed so much that a lot of people fell away from me. I needed a new environment. I needed a new type of energy around me. So you change. You change externally because the inner life changes. And suddenly you're no longer afraid to take chances with your life, to do things that might potentially allow you to live on a more refined and better level. So all of that is part of the inner work. And acceptance of mediocrity is really a very dangerous thing. It really levels you off inside and I don't know, it was always very dangerous to me to accept mediocrity as a way of living. And then as I grew, I used to take chances that were totally outrageous. I never even thought about them because I would have just, are you crazy? They all worked out. It was like jumping into the Pacific Ocean, swimming for shore and finding the energy inside myself to manage to get to shore. And I used to use money that way, finances, economics that way, as a way of really testing myself and making myself grow. Can I get strong enough to do this? I remember once I had a student in Texas. She came and gave me a candy bar as a present. I made this, and she said, I think it tastes pretty good. I'd like to give it to you. I took a bite of the candy bar. And in 6 months, I was selling that candy bar in every health food store in America. I mean this. Not only every health food store in America, supermarket chains, pharmacy chains, Woolworths, which doesn't exist anymore, was buying, supply. I mean, in 6 months. Now, if I would have thought about that, I would say, Stuart, this is insane. How could you do this? I just did it. And one day I had to get out of the business. You know what got me out of that business? I was invited by the Willy Wonka company to go to St. Louis. This is a true story. To go to St. Louis and meet with the president of the Willy Wonka company. They had determined that the product that we were making, and yes, Bob Sink, he was there, was a product of the candy of the future. And they wanted to find out more. And I went up to St. Louis and I met with them. They took me on a tour of their factory. And I said, Stuart, this is the future of your life. I said, I don't want to live this way. I don't want to run a factory that's, an entire square block that nobody works there. They drop the caramel and then it's all machinery until it they took me on a tour and it got me out of the business. I finally said, I don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. I cannot, my life is devoted to God. It's devoted to teaching this meditation practice, not devoted to making hundreds of millions of dollars. Things change. Life teaches you. And then after that, I moved to New York. I opened an art gallery and ran an Asian art business for many, many years, 20, 25 years. But you have to have something in you that is not afraid to take chances. And if you develop the chakra system inside, it gives you the strength to overcome fear and insecurity. And then the world around you changes. And you learn how to deal with the economics of life, with relationships, everything that life presents to you that ordinarily create a lot of fear in people. And you learn how to use it and grow because of it and refine not only your internal life, but your external life as well. To build the strength to do that. And it's not greed. Most people involved in economics, money, it's all greed, power, how strong they can, how many billions of dollars they can make. And that's all madness. Understand, one day we all drop dead. And what does it amount to? It's like that poem by Shelley, Here Lies Ozymandias, King of Kings, standing at his tomb. He used to rule the world, and now he rules a 6-foot space underground. But while we're alive, what I learned to do is to use everything as a way of serving a higher energy. It was all based upon me being able to support meditation centers, teaching meditation, and it wasn't based upon me becoming a rich man or becoming wealthy. It was based on, I need things of life in order to support what my mission is to do in life. Changes you. And the best thing it does is it takes that, that kind of poverty consciousness that people live in, gets rid of it. And you're no longer afraid to experiment with life, take chances with life. And what saved my life was that its sole purpose was being able to teach this meditation. When I was in New York, it grew like a weed. It was unbelievable. I had so many people there. And in a given week, I had 150 people were coming to meditation classes there. 100 people, a lot of people. Never less than 30 to 40 people in a meditation. I needed a place. When I thought of moving, I thought I got to get a place big enough to support what I, and God sent me this extraordinary loft of 4,000 square feet. I was able to live there and teach there. I had a meditate. It cost me a fortune every month, but who cared? It enabled people to come. It enabled classes to go on. So, all I'm saying is if you develop a chakra system that's really strong inside, all of this becomes possible. And at the same time, you get these things happen, and you're not attached to them. You're attached to God, spirit, whatever one wants to call it. So you experience life, but at the same time, you're free of it. You're no longer afraid to embrace the world and what it has to teach you. So yes, it changes your inner world, it changes your outer world, changes everything. Everything changes. From chasing cockroaches in a kitchen, I was living in Woodstock in a bloody mansion that I bought up there. Cockroaches in the kitchen. And that was a beautiful house. Wow, what a place that was. An extraordinary house. But I always remember chasing cockroaches in the kitchen. It made me work harder on myself. I never wanted to return living that way. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? And I'm not saying this so people should pursue money. That's not the goal. The goal is to learn whatever your karma has to teach you so that you can finally get free of your karma. And if you need to make a lot of money, if you need to get married and have 6 children, if that's what your karma requires, then you have to grow strong enough to be able to learn from whatever it is that takes place in your life so you can get free of your karma. And the only way I've learned in my life to do that is to go deep enough in myself to connect with God, spirit, higher energy in the universe. And I use everything to get there. All my teachers, Rudy, Nityananda, Ramana Maharshi, Shankaracharya Puri. I mean, it's endless to get there. I call upon them to help me get there. Does anyone else have a question they'd like to ask? And just and also it really opens up the wonderment of life. So many different dimensions of life that are wonderful, that are full of joy, that are full of happiness, that are sacred, really sacred, because each and every one of them is teaching us how to get closer to our spiritual enlightenment, how to get free of karma. Does anyone else have a question? And the funny thing is,
Stuart,
yes, yeah.
hi, Stuart. Yeah, can you talk about how sometimes when we um, uh, shed physical stuff, that we open ourselves up to receive more of this energy coming into our life?
Well, it's part of it also, Larry. Your whole physical being changes. You don't need stuff. You don't need to surround yourself. I, I mean, I have things here that I really like. I enjoy living with art. I'm totally detached from it. Every month or two, I throw things in auction just to keep get money to support myself. Totally detached from it, and also, the clothing you wear, the people you interact, it all changes. It all changes. You change. So you require a whole different way of living. And you got to remember, ultimately, it's all taken away from us anyway. We cling to all this stuff, and it's all taken away from us. So we might as well learn how to detach from it while we're living and waiting to that moment when, we have to leave the world and everything gets taken away anyway, you know? I mean, we live look, in India, they live swamp gurus and desert gurus and mountain gurus. And they live in caves, and it's a different world. And I don't even know if they do that anymore. They used to do this. I don't know if they still do this in India. But I remember once the story. I had a friend when I ran my gallery in Manhattan. This young lady used to come in all the time. She was a Tibetan nun. And she was an American girl, but she had taken vows to become a nun. And I'll never forget her. Annie, her name was, and she said to me, her dream was to get a cave somewhere in the Himalayas where she could just meditate all the time. This was her dream, the way she wanted to live. And one day she came in my gallery and, Stuart, I found it. So I said, what did you find, Annie? And she said, I got a cave in the Himal. I'm going in 2 weeks to meditate there and to completely isolate myself and to try to, become one with God that way. And she went to this cave up in the Himalayas. And it's a funny story. And about maybe 100 meters from her, not even 50 meters from her, there was some sadhu who had been living in a cave there. That the people from the village used to come and bring him food and, take care of him and his needs and this and that and the other. And when she started living in the cave, the people in the same village said that she was sacred also. So they began to bring food to her, take care of her, and this and that and the other. The sadhu got jealous. The sadhu got jealous. And he couldn't stand the competition of another saint living 25 yards from him. And he began to do all kinds of insane things. He put rats in her cave, this and that, and the other. And she finally had to leave, and the funny part about the story, she came into my gallery, and I saw a young lady dressed in jeans and a, sweater, and, dressed like a Western college girl, And and she said, Stuart, hi, how are you? I said, I don't know who you are. She said, Stuart, it's Annie. I said, Annie? No, come on, what happened? And then she told me the story, how she was living in this cave, and the people from the village considered her to be a holy person. They were bringing her food and offerings and all kinds of, and this sadhu got jealous and ran her out of town, you know? So look, we have illusions in our brain about what's going to enlighten us. And after that happened, I wrote something that wound up in one of my books. The most sacred place on earth is where you are standing. It's the most sacred place on earth. It's not all these dreams we have of going to this place and that place. When I ran a gallery, I had people like that all the time. Used to tell them they're going to Khajuraho, they're going to Pashupatinath, they're going to Nepal, India, they're going to find a guru, they're going to get their enlightenment. And I finally got so fed up with it. I said, the most sacred place in the world is wherever you are. Because honestly, the sacred nature of where you are is determined by how deeply you work on yourself and how open you are inside yourself to higher energy in the universe. That determines the sacred nature of life. Not wearing robes and be called a Swami and this, that's all this stuff. Even Rudy once told me he was embarrassed to be called a Swami in America. He said, that's something for India. He said, I don't like people calling me Swami here. So what I'm saying is that life is sacred. And as soon as we build a connection with higher energy, everything becomes sacred. We just see the world differently. But I'll never forget Annie. She was so cute. She came in there dressed with, wearing sneakers and jeans and a sweater. Annie, what happened to your robes and your bald head? She told me that story. Boy, I tell you, it was a good education for me. Does anyone else have a question they would like to? Okay, if there are no more questions, as I announced earlier, there won't be a class tomorrow. I have to have that eye procedure, which I do every 2 months. And but there will be class Wednesday. For those of you that go to the day class on Tuesday, there will be a class on Tuesday. I'll send out links and invitations. So thank you. God bless you all. Everyone needs a guru. Here's my guru sitting in front of me. 25 people forcing me to go very deep inside myself. So God bless you all, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart. Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. Good night.
Night.